Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 43 of Scion of the Dark House, a Gothic horror 5th edition actual play Dungeons and Dragons podcast. I added another word that time. Interesting. Since it is Gothic horror, there may be some things that come up to a line for some people, such as talk about trauma and abuse, child endangerment, body horror, gore, blood, violence, things of that nature. So if there is something that comes up to a line for you, please take a break. Your support means a lot to us, but so does your mental health. So in the last episode, you guys finally made it to the Feywild, where you found yourself deep, in a way, behind enemy lines, in the realm of the Harvest Maiden and the May Queen. After speaking with several interesting beings, such as the Master Wizard Caramel of the Applings in the Autumnal Forest, and Sir Garlack, who is currently approaching you in the field from the Vernal Forest. You gained the information that soon Queen Gloria's castle is going to be floating overhead of the realm. And the field is going to be used as a landing site so that the Gnome King can deliver a shipment of wish stones via ornithopter to the castle. Armed with that information, you returned to the field to wait for the ornithopters, and this is when Sir Garlack has approached you. So, as this strange, onionoid knight in silver armor with lime green and evergreen and white livery all over him approaches you with a friendly wave, what would you all like to do?
Unsuredly waving back. It's in common. We can all understand. Hello.
Hello, what business do you have here?
Wow, he's rude.
Not rude. I am simply worried about your safety. The ornithopters of the Gnome King are going to be landing here quite soon, and we don't need anyone stuck in the crossfire of landing.
Oh dear, what would happen if we were stuck in the crossfire of landing?
There are a variety of blades that could slice you up, and several of our people have been smashed. Occasionally. Not often. But it is a possibility. So we need to make sure that the area is clear and secure.
So you're sort of the landing party.
Yes.
With ornithopters.
Indeed.
Well, boys, they seem to know what they're doing. Should we take their warning?
Sure. No harm. And then I just whisper, if I eat them, would I still be vegetarian?
So yeah, I guess we'll step somewhere else.
Lark's gonna whisper back to Rerek and be like, just don't eat them yet. They could be useful.
Awesome.
So as you all seem to be waiting, and the onion people wearing armor are carrying various items here and there to kind of prepare a nice area for landing, you actually see a distant figure that seems to be running across the field. It is about the same height as the onionoids, but this one, you notice, it has a pumpkin head with a carved face on it and a glow coming from inside of its mouth. You then see it sidle up beside Sir Garlack and seems to whisper in its ear, and then turn and run back across the field.
Garlack, dear, what was that all about?
Well, I will have to get permission to take a platoon to the land of the Pumpkinheads. It seems the Great Pumpkin has been destroyed.
Can I history check the Great Pumpkin?
Yes, you may.
Well, that sounds terrible.
Poor pumpkin.
I got
What
an
is the Great Pumpkin?
An 8. Lots of things happen in the Feywild that are, strange.
Listen, I've been trying to sneeze this entire time and it's not coming up.
So I'm gonna whisper to Lark and be like, maybe we should get Sir Garlack on our good side so we can have him let us ride the Ornithoptera.
I'll whisper back to Percy. I mean, I suppose you're right. We can engender his favor by offering aid, and then he'll be honor bound to help us.
Well, Sir Garlack, just when about do you think the Ornithopters will be landing? I would very much like to see them come down.
Probably in about an hour.
Well, I suppose that leaves us enough time. My friends and I here are quite capable adventurers. If you have your hands tied here, perhaps we could lend you a bit of aid with the Great Pumpkin.
Well, that would certainly be handy. I will need to quickly go back to the castle and get permission to take a platoon out, but if you could wait here until then, we can certainly take you along.
Sounds good.
And he kind of calls out, he turns and he calls out in Sylvan, which of course Lark you'd understand is just being like making orders, as several of these onions carrying halberds march off into the vernal forest along with him.
Are there any left around us?
Yes, there's certainly a lot left around. They're like unpacking boxes and they're putting up various poles with flags on them and cloth and various other things, which are probably signal devices or something along those lines. But they are important and they're being set up around the field.
So at some point while they're away, Lark's just going to be like, I feel like this should go without saying to the group, like obviously low, so nobody should overhear it. But we have to keep pretty tight-lipped on who we're here to help, if that makes sense to you all.
Oh, you mean your queen?
Yes. Not everyone's going to just be able to smell it on me, darling. And apparently these onionoids can't. So, good for us for now.
Maybe, I don't know, could do some fairy magic, make yourself seem more cheerful or something?
Darling, I'm already full of cheer. Look at me.
Just saying, you could look how adorable they are. They blend right in here. Maybe you could, I don't know, put a pumpkin on your head.
Do I look like? No, Lark's just gonna like kind of look towards Rosie and be like, they just don't understand, darling. One doesn't just decide to look like a plant. Well, I mean, some of us could decide to look like a plant if we wanted to look like a plant, but I wasn't born for that. Why waste all of this? And he kind of just does like a peck bounce or something.
I feel like that's fair. Forget it.
So I guess we wait for Sir Garlack's return.
Yeah, it does take a little bit for him to return, but he does return, and he returns with a larger platoon of other onionoid knights, and he marches towards you. Well, I have gotten permission from Lord Commander Onion to go and visit the Pumpkinheads. You have requested to come
Amazing.
along?
Sure, that sounds very interesting.
Yes, indeed. It certainly will be.
Is there any news of what caused the Great Pumpkin's demise?
There has been no news as of yet, but they have started investigating.
We should be on our way then.
Yes, indeed. And he starts marching as the other one, and they're marching in like lockstep across the field. As I'm assuming you guys aren't, you're just kind of walking beside them as they're just like march, 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 march. You do end up walking alongside of the autumnal forest. You do see occasionally a few applings here or there, mostly the lumberjack ones that are gathering wood and things of that nature, but they give a friendly wave. And of course, some of the Onion Knights wave back, but not all of them. And they march along, and the leaves of the trees begin to become more red and less orange. And you come across a clearing. And in this clearing are small houses, about the same size as the Applings' houses, but very different. They are almost more hobbit-like, round doors, round windows. They seem to be mounds in the ground. There are lots of little pumpkins that are growing all over the place in tiny little fenced-off gardens. It seems to be a very different setup community. But indeed, in the center, there is a round garden and the remains of a pumpkin in the middle. It appears to have been broken apart, and the goo and the seeds are still strewn everywhere.
How big is this pumpkin?
Very big.
Okay.
Like if it was together, you estimate it would probably be about maybe your height, somewhere between your height and maybe Rerek's height. It's pretty big. But it seems to have been broken apart with the goop everywhere. And there's lots of pumpkin people, as well as, interestingly, bigger pumpkin people that appear more like scarecrows than cutesy little pumpkin people. But they're all gathered around as these, you notice, ones that are clad in green hoods and green robes are kind of standing in a circle, and they have these staves that they're holding. They seem to be almost druidic in nature as they're gathered around the pumpkin. And that's when Sir Garlack starts speaking in Sylvan to the pumpkin heads and just starts running down the checklist. What's happened? What evidence have you gathered? You know, that kind of thing, just starting an investigation. And he kind of leaves you guys to it as the platoon kind of starts setting up a perimeter around the pumpkin, and some of them begin talking to other people, also in Sylvan. But it seems that they're just starting to go through an investigation.
Could, I'm assuming that we're Jaegering Arthur until if Yofi does show up tonight. Could Jasmine do her keen smell when we get here?
Yes, she can.
Let me look at what her modifiers are. I should just save this character sheet on the laptop for a little while. So that's going to be 17 plus 5, so 22.
Okay, well, there's definitely, Arthur relays to you. She smells a lot of pumpkin, of course, but she also smells a bit of rust and something that doesn't smell like pumpkin or onion or apple at all. It smells almost humanoid in a way. That's what she's relaying to me. I don't know.
Well, Percy can't understand any of the Sylvan around him, so
Mm-mm.
it's all Greek to him. So he's just gonna think, maybe try casting Mending on the pumpkin to see if that does anything.
Only if it's like a foot tall.
I can mend a foot of it.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to have mending be that you can mend a foot at a time, not the whole thing has to be underneath a foot in order to fix it. So you can sit there and just hold two pieces together and mend them until they're completely mended.
Percy does that a little bit. Does it work?
Well, I can help too.
I'm not sure if it would work on a pumpkin.
Let me check the spell.
I'm not gonna just sit here for 3 hours and fix the whole thing, but like,
well,
because I need to check the wording, because wording is important.
As long as the break or tear is no larger than a foot in any dimension, you mend it, leaving no trace of the former damage. So you can do it part by part, 1 foot at a time. It sounds like it.
Yeah, but would it work if the Great Pumpkin had been a living like being and not an item?
Doesn't sound like it. The spell can physically repair a magic item or construct.
Yeah. So the magic kind of courses through the two pieces that you're holding, but they don't go back together.
I sheepishly put them both back down on the ground.
If you'd like to make an investigation check, since you picked the two pieces up, you can.
Sure.
Can I give him advantage with the help action by just being like, "Are you having fun playing with cadavers over there, Percy?"
Can
Yes.
I use the restroom real quick? Just
Wow,
1
the
second.
advantage I got nat 20. Plus 2. So 22.
You notice you've probably seen pumpkins being smashed before.
Yeah.
This doesn't look like it was smashed. This looks like it was cut. The two pieces have a very clean cut, almost like a blade carved through them. And you notice that on some other pieces as well.
Well, whatever did this, did it with at least some level of precision. It's definitely some sort of intelligent creature.
Well, that doesn't really narrow down suspects at all.
Can I do identify to
Not
see
any
if there's
fairies
magic?
that go around slicing up pumpkins that you know of.
There's a million species in the Feywild that would go around smashing things for the fun of it.
Can I do identify for detect magic for traces of magic that was used?
Yes, you may. So you cast Detect Magic. There's definitely, of course, a lot of magic around here, like druidic and natural magics. The staves are definitely magical that the pumpkin druids are holding. And the pumpkin itself is magical, but it doesn't really have a specific school, which kind of gives it the idea of this is a magical being, a being made of magic. But that's about what you get.
That didn't help much.
Does Rosie have any opinions here? As she's a living enchanted plant. This is a dead
Oh, poor
enchanted. This is
thing.
like her seeing like a corpse.
Yeah.
She kind of has a piece picked up and is like turning it around, kind of confused, and then just kind of gently sets it back down. It doesn't seem like she has a comment of any kind.
Okay.
She's just kind of looking around and occasionally just like wanders off and starts poking something, going, "Wow!"
Well, Lark, why don't you
So,
see what you can glean from our friends over there?
yeah, so I'll fly over towards, I guess, the druidic looking ones.
Mm-hmm.
And just in Sylvan be like, hello. Sir Garlack brought us along to help him with the investigation.
Yes, that would be very helpful. Our magics are very diminished due to the great pumpkin sustaining such damage.
Oh, was it a sort of power source for your community then?
In a way, yes.
Oh, poor dear. So do you see that cat over there? It's a well-trained hunting cat from the mortal realm. We brought it along with us. She seems to have caught the scent of rust in the air.
That is concerning.
Oh, do tell, darling. Do tell.
I believe there were several members of our community that professed to, late last night, hear the jingling of bells come through our small village and then vanish off into the night.
Now, jingling of bells and rust. What, darling? I'm not exactly from this part of the Feywild. What does this mean? Help us help you.
We are not sure ourselves. We have asked for guidance, but seeing as how it is our protector is gone, we have very little magics to call upon.
Now,
Can I go ahead?
Could you point us in the direction that they were hearing the bells from, perhaps?
They one of them just kind of takes a staff and indicates just like around the pumpkin.
Well, thank you, darling. And nothing like this has ever happened before?
No, never.
Do you mind if are there any pumpkin seeds out? Because it's been smashed.
Yes, it still has like the goop and the seeds and everything all around.
Now, darling, do you mind if I take a few of those for the investigation's sake? It could help us track down who did this, maybe.
Yes, I'm sure the great pumpkin will give his blessing if it helps avenge him.
Yes, darling. We shall avenge your great pumpkin. Though I suppose we should go. I must go and tell my friends what you've told me. Thank you. And Lark's gonna fly and just kind of start grabbing pumpkin guts and like seeing how many seeds he can gather up from it.
Roll me a D12. Let's just say that.
Wait. That one went flying. Let's try it again. Oh, that one went flying again. Okay. That's a 7.
Yeah, so as you start gathering up like a bunch of these seeds, one of them does stop you and goes, please leave some for us to regrow him.
Oh, apologies. And then I'm going to fly back to the group with like, I don't know how big these seeds are because it's a giant pumpkin.
Oh, very true. They're probably about like that big.
Okay. So like Lark's got a literal like armful of seeds.
And he's just back. I'm looking at Arthur and I'm being like, so do you think they carved the faces themselves? Or is that just how they're born?
No clue. Could be anything.
Can I do an Arcana check? Because I feel like, because in real life, fairies are weak to iron, and that's probably where the rust is coming from in real life, the rust smell. But like, I also want to know if Rerek knows that fact or something along those lines.
Sure. Make me a nature check or an Arcana check. Probably an Arcana check.
Arcana check. 26. That's with the bonus.
Not all of them are weak to iron, and not everything in the Feywild is a fairy. as well as modifying. It has to be pure iron. Making it into something such as steel makes it safe for fairies who are averse to iron to touch. They can touch steel, but they cannot touch pure iron. So it could be a being that is not a fairy. It could be a fairy that is not averse to iron, or they could be weapons that are made out of steel or some other metal that rusts.
I'll return to the group unless Rerek wants to announce that to everybody.
Yes, I'll announce it. I'm like, so there's some possibilities for suspects.
Oh, darling, an iron allergy is so 300 years ago.
Allergy, isn't it like weakness for some fairies?
There's some of us, the unfortunate ones, I suppose. I don't think I would have gotten very far in the mortal realm if I had a particular weakness to the stuff, though. You all have it all over the place. But yeah, Lark's just carrying this like bundle full of seeds, and he goes, "Look what I found!"
Oh, not seeds.
Are we toasting them?
Oh no, darling. I'm just gonna whisper and be like, "These are seeds from a giant magical pumpkin. Do you know what they're going to be worth in trade? Plus, maybe they'll help us find." I did mention that maybe they could help us track down who did this. And there were bells. Bells were involved. The pumpkin druids said that the locals heard bells through the night before this disaster happened.
Santa.
Well, that means almost nothing to me. So what next?
Can I do a history check?
For what specifically?
I don't know. If I know something about something that has bells. Legendary people or something. It says it here.
You know what? Fine. Yes, you can roll.
I'm just trying out. Okay, that sucked. That was a 3. Plus
I mean, there's
6. It's a 9. So
yeah, there's tons of ritual outfits and comedic costumes and cultural things from various places that all involve bells. So could be someone wearing bells, probably somebody wearing bells.
Could I do a history check and see if anyone that I used to like rub elbows with would harass a bunch of pumpkin people wearing bells and kill things for fun?
Sure, you can.
Like, it's only a 7. We're rolling great tonight, guys.
There are plenty of fey beings who are associated with the jingling of bells. You probably can't think of a lot of them off the top of your head, but there are definitely quite a few.
While y'all are thinking real hard, Percy is just like, oh my god, look at the little pumpkin man go in his little pumpkin house.
You're distracted.
Percy, stop.
Fine, okay, fine, yeah. Where are we going now?
This kind of thought process is how you're going to wind up trapped in a pumpkin for 500 years, sowing pumpkin seeds into a skirt for someone if you're not careful. You know, that's a very good ploy. I should try that
Oh
sometime.
my god. Oh yeah, I'll keep a better head on my shoulders. What are we doing now?
I believe we should possibly go into the forest and Arthur, can Jasmine possibly trace any of the rusty scent? Is that a thing she can do?
I mean, if it moved in a general direction, then it's definitely going to leave clues on where it went.
Oh, be a dear and let's I suppose at least try to help to maintain our cover.
Sure.
So I guess I'll roll that for the cat then. Would that be keen smell or an investigation check?
I would do survival, but any check that involves smell or hearing gets advantage because she's using that sense.
Okay.
So it would be a survival check.
That's going to be a 19. I think she doesn't have actual it's 19 plus 2, so 21, because she only has 2 actual skills that she gets to add a modifier to, one being stealth and the other being perception. But 21?
Yeah. Yeah, she definitely picks up on something. As you guys follow her, she definitely kind of points out, like with her nose or with her paw, like footprints and places where twigs were broken. And eventually you come to a place in the woods where the footsteps just entirely stop. And she moves forward and paws at a pile of leaves. And underneath the pile of leaves is a torn piece of fabric. It seems to have a diamond, a sort of black and gray diamond pattern, as well as a part that is sewn so that it maintains a sort of triangular shape. And at the very end of it is a little bell. And that's all that's left.
Can I history check this to see if this looks familiar?
Sure. Anyone else can as well, if you'd like.
Throw one in there.
I'll give Lark advantage with help.
Sure.
Mine's 20.
Ooh. Got a 16, even with advantage.
My advantage is 20. With advantage is 20.
Oh, yeah, we'll just say Arthur helped you. So the pattern, the sort of shape, and the fact that there is a bell on the end, you almost recognize it as part of a particular costume known as a harlequin. It's a costume for a court jester, or a specific style of court jester.
Oh. Wait, was that for me?
Yeah, that was actually for both of you,
okay.
Since you rolled so high.
Well, seems like a clown's been clowning around.
And they're there. The footsteps end here, but the costume is still, a piece of it's here.
Shall we continue tracking the smell?
At this point, Arthur says, Jasmine says the smell stops here. Like, just stops.
Oh.
Could have flown away or teleported away.
Would detect magic still be worth it? Just to see if they use teleportation or whatever.
I mean, there's only one way to find out.
Okay, I'll cast detect magic. If any magic was cast around here.
It's strange when you cast this spell. There was an immense amount of evocation magic here in a line that sort of snakes off into the distance one way and snakes off into the distance the other way.
Oh, should we
almost
follow?
like a wall that this piece of the costume and the footprints stop directly at.
Oh,
but the
like
magic is quickly fading away.
Wait, you mean like a wall? Like there's a wall, or is it like a trail of magic?
A wall.
Oh, okay. Oh, there seems to be a wall of evocation magic around here. I wonder if it's, I don't know, covering something. Should we go forward?
I'll cast Mage Hand to like push against this theoretical wall. And
The
see if
hand
it can-
floats through it.
Pick up a rock and throw it.
Rock bounce flies right through it. I will also say the magic is fading, as if there was something here and now it's gone, but it was so powerful it had to leave traces. As you get closer, you do see, in a way, almost smears, as if this thing has dragged itself across the landscape,
So
but isn't there anymore.
the Harlequin ran into a wall and forced itself through and left a little piece behind. Maybe.
It seems so.
We should keep that and possibly continue and see what we can find.
Okay.
You continue forward.
Yes.
Forward!
So you continue walking forward, and it doesn't take very long before you find the wall.
Oh, an actual
With the actual wall. With your detect magic is still up. The brush seems to get very thick around this area, almost forming a wall itself. Thick, thorny brambles, bushes, trees very close together, and it extends off into the distance in a similar nature to the wall itself, almost following the wall.
Cool. Should I set on fire?
How tall is this wall?
Probably about like 12 feet or so, but there's also like parts where there's land that comes up, creating like little hillocks there and almost exposed like rock cliff sides and things of that nature. It seems to be, it to the naked eye appears like an entirely natural formation, at least natural in as the Feywild can get. But with the detect magic up, there's very clearly a wall that runs through the center of this thing.
Okay. Should we try to go over?
Yeah, we can.
Could I don't know, could I history check to guess what would put up a wall? I don't know.
Yes, you can. You can make a history check or a nature check, whichever one is higher or...
You do nature
right.
check. I'll do history check since our advantages are. 16 with advantage.
12.
Since you live in the Feywild, Lark, it kind of dawns on you, this might be a border. The kingdoms tend to move around and don't exactly line up geographically. But this could be a way in which the magic of the Feywild disguises the border between each realm. That this is just a natural occurrence that happens, and going beyond that wall, you'll be in another kingdom. But these kingdoms move around, and as they move, they don't always end up in the same nicely congruent puzzle piece spot. So sometimes the Feywild kingdoms expand or shrink, and the Feywild forms logically, or at least as logically as the Feywild can, in those spaces, so they're not empty.
Okay, so I guess I'll tell everybody else that and just be like, oh, I haven't seen one of these in a while.
What is it? It's a border?
Yes, it's well, I suppose it doesn't make sense because the mortal plane is so boring, but when kingdoms float around and transpose themselves in different parts of our world, certain Archfey and just the actual plane itself likes to have things as tidy as they can. So you get something like this to separate two kingdoms visually and magically from each other somewhat. Would I know if passing through this would be dangerous for us?
Depends on the Archfey. They can close off the border so that it would literally either bounce you off of a wall or turn you around and have you walk back into the kingdom. There's some Archfey that have their kingdoms so that you can enter, but you can't leave. Some of them you can leave, but you can't come back in. It's kind of whatever the Archfey is feeling at the time, and you don't know whose kingdom is on the other side of that border right now.
So yeah. Well, I don't know what kingdom's on the other side, and depending on whose it is, they can make their own rules once we enter, but it appears to be the place that the jester ran to.
Should we knock? Like do like a metaphorical knock.
There's an order, there has to be like a gate.
A gate.
Or something, right?
Can I reach out and just touch it a little bit and see if there's any like super negative reaction?
Your hand just passes through it. You can't see this wall.
Okay.
Only Rerek can see this wall because it's made of evocation magic, and so he's seeing it. You guys are just seeing the plants and the hills and the rocks and things of that nature. So pushing out your hand, it doesn't feel any different. Rerek, you do see Lark's hand pass through the wall, but nothing happens to it, and he pulls it back.
Rerek, am I touching it?
No, you're just going through. Maybe we can just pass through this wall. I don't know.
Well, whoever's kingdom it is, they don't seem to have blocked people like me, so that's a good sign.
How about you, Percy? Try putting your hand in there.
Okay.
Yeah, your hand just goes through it.
Okay, well, I think we're fine if we go through it.
Fly through.
All right.
Yeah, as you move through this thick foliage and...
Someone's screaming in the background.
Oh, that's probably my bird. Don't worry, she's fine. Yeah. So as you move through this sort of foliage, you do feel a temperature change, a very slight temperature change. It's slightly cooler here. And as you walk out the other side, kind of sliding down a bit of rock, the grass it's definitely not the same environment. The grass is significantly shorter. It almost looks like it's been mowed or trimmed in some way. It also is two separate colors in a checkerboard pattern. One is kind of a dark green, the other is a almost white. And as you look up, you see the sky, unlike where you just came from, is entirely gray. You also see that there is a lot of flat land. It goes very far and very wide. And there are different elevations, but they're ever so slight, connected by marble staircases. And there are tons of topiaries and fountains that are all shaped like chess pieces.
Whoa.
History check?
Sure.
As the only Feywild native to see if
Can I
I've been
give
here before?
Advantage, I'm just like pointing out details. Like,
Sure.
Wow! That's a nat 1 and a 4. That was the worst
Oh,
roll of
no.
the night.
Yikes.
You want my twin? That doesn't really help, does it? I still have my 2 portents. That's both 20.
Sorry, there's an ice cream truck going by.
It could be helpful so we don't go in blind.
Or I can roll it. I can roll a history check too. I have.
I mean, you probably wouldn't know anything.
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah, that's the only.
Okay, here's my 20.
Thank you, Rerek.
I have 2
I
of
was
them.
almost forgetful for a minute there. Oh, it almost slipped my mind. Where are we?
So this is a very interesting place. It's called the Boardlands. It's a very
like
strange
chessboard.
kingdom that isn't technically ruled over by an Archfey. Instead, it's ruled over by living chess pieces who eternally act out a game of chess. They are constantly fighting with each other. It's a convenient kind of neutral zone for Fae to roam through, to get from one kingdom to another, and it floats almost on its own because the people here don't really care about anything outside of their little battle that they have continuously going on. But that's about what you get.
Oh, well, we're in the most neutral territory we've been in so far. Boardland.
No, it's the Boardlands.
The Boardland, sorry.
Very
See,
important distinction.
I'll explain to the group what it is, and then I'll be like, if someone was trying to get away from the autumnal forest, that makes sense. It would be rather convenient if they could pass through here. Jasmine, can you pick up the scent again now that we're on this side?
She begins to smell. Make another survival check.
21 again. The cat's rolling better than I am.
The scent is entirely gone. There's no scent here.
Father.
Okay.
Do we see like a big, like any building or whatever? Is there any building around here?
You do see off in the distance 2 castles on either side, one of which appears to be red, but due to atmospheric perspective appears kind of faded. The other one is white, and they do appear to be made entirely out of chess pieces. You also do see in the distance there are large topiaries that are shaped like various chess pieces, like there's a knight and a rook and a king and a queen and, you know, things of that nature. Everything here seems to be entirely chess themed.
Oh, what color is the thing with the bell that we got?
It was black and gray.
Jesus Christ. I can't even match it with a fucking castles. Interesting.
The cat has nothing for us. How should we proceed?
I mean, we still have to go and get
that's
the rose,
Oh shit.
you know, for the deal that I made.
Wild goose chase might take us too far away from that.
How about we just let them know about this jester thingy coming from the Boardlands and have them take care of it? Yes?
Well, I don't really know how else we can keep going, so I guess that's our best option.
Yeah, because they might know what to do. We're kind of...
All right,
we don't.
Back to the pumpkin village.
So you cross back over this border, and I would say at this point your detect magic probably goes down as you're crossing the border. You see the border and then it just vanishes as you cross over it, but you do feel the temperature change. The temperature rises a bit, and as you walk out, you are definitely still in this, you have returned to the place that you came from, apparently in a slightly different location. As you walk out and look up, you do see the pumpkin village, not too far away, distant enough that it would feasibly take time for you to get there, but close enough that you can actually see it, which is a bit odd, but also not unexpected, at least from Lark's end.
Well, why don't we go try to cash in this favor?
What? Sorry.
We're gonna go try to cash in the favor that we're doing for
Okay.
Sir Garlack.
So yeah, you return and they are still bustling about doing their investigation. They're still investigating the pumpkin itself, of course, still speaking in Sylvan.
In Sylvan, once we get there, Lark will kind of just call out, we found something, at least.
Instantly, these sort of green cloaked, staff wielding pumpkin people kind of come towards you and crowd around you excitedly. You found something?
I'll motion to whoever has the jester cloth to like hold it up. A Harlequin costume. Yeah, we found this in the forest at the. There's a border between here and the Boardlands. Just so you know, it's not that far off, relatively speaking.
But it is moving.
It's moving a little. I mean, that's normal here, Rerek. Don't worry. But he's just gonna be like, yeah. So we lost the scent of the trail once we passed through, which does make a bit of sense. But best guess is a Harlequin of sorts stole away into your village and took out your great pumpkin before going back across the border.
Well, that is most unfortunate.
Have your people offended some clowns before, perhaps, or?
No, we have been nothing but peaceful. The great pumpkin asks us to be generous and helpful.
Now, would anyone want to harm the great pumpkin for any particular reason?
Why? It is the great pumpkin.
Oh dear. It like in common, Lark just says like, oh dear. They don't seem to get it. Was anything taken other than the life of your great pumpkin?
No, not a thing.
I'm just gonna look around and be like, so in common, I guess I'll tell the rest of the group and just be like, so this pumpkin was a source of magical energy for their people in general, and someone hacked it up before running away from here, which leads me to wonder if they were going after something inside of it or just wanted to leave these people without many defenses. Either one sounds viable to me.
I agree.
I'm not really sure what to make all of this, so
We
our
do have an
priority is still
appointment.
the rose.
So is Sir Garlack around?
Yes.
Yeah, Lark will fly over to him and just be like, well, Garlack, we did what we could so far, but our group was hoping to possibly meet with the Gnome King's representatives for something when they were landing. That's how we met, actually.
Ah, indeed. I shall leave the platoon here and escort you back to the field. The ornithopter should be landing soon.
Can we tear a little bit of the Harlequin costume off and just give it to the people here in case they can use it for something?
Yeah, you certainly can.
Yeah, we'll do that in case they need it for something. Mark will just be like, good luck.
Oh, I thought we were just going to give it to them.
Well, we should keep a piece of it for ourselves.
Oh, okay.
You never know what could be useful.
So yeah, the pumpkin druids graciously take the piece. And Sir Garlack leads you back along the path. There's definitely an increased presence of applings as well as some pumpkin heads that have come out and are standing along the edge of the forest. And as you get back to relatively where you were before, where you had met Sir Garlack, you see there are definitely onionoids that are lining up along the forest to watch. And as you get back, you do begin to hear the sort of rattling and puttering of something coming across the horizon. And these giant, relatively giant, winged machines that seem to be made out of wood and metal and canvas and rope and chains and things like that, they come in at surprisingly high speeds, flying very low across the ground before they zoom up into the air and make a few circles as they begin to descend in a sort of landing formation before they finally come to rest in various places in the field. And gnomes get out of these things and begin fixing their ornithopters and taking boxes out and opening them and those sorts of things. Of course, some of the people around cheer and clap and wave, and after a brief celebration, they all begin to go back to their homes.
Can we spot like a gnome that looks like maybe they're in charge, I guess?
Make a perception check.
Maybe we shouldn't go to the one in charge. Maybe we should just go up to a random gnome. Hey, that's my first like actually decent roll for Lark tonight.
Ooh.
I'm proficient in perception, so that's gonna be a dirty 20.
Ooh. So yeah, you definitely spot a sort of gnome that has a finer outfit, who is standing near a larger ornithopter that seems to have some official seals on it that would logically represent the Gnome King. There is a mountain in a red sort of circle, and underneath of it are little dots, almost as if like the wish stones, and two gnomes on either side swinging pickaxes into it. And it seems to be a very official seal of the Gnome King sort of thing. It almost seems like a flagship. There is even a ribbon that comes off the back that has a sort of red and yellow and white sort of stripes on it. And he is kind of standing and looking out over the field of ornithopters.
Lark's gonna point him out and be like, I think he's in charge.
Looks like it. You're the best talker out of all of us, and either your people, so.
Well, I mean, that's debatable, but follow me. I'll need you all.
Let us know if you need help, I guess.
So yeah, I'm gonna drag the party with me as I like fly over to this guy. And I'll just be like, hello, how are you today?
Hello. Hopefully you are not disturbing my fellow gnomes as they repair the ornithopters. Is there something that I can help you with?
Oh, it would be, I hate to impose, but you would be so kind to offer to help. So how kind of you. My friends over here, if you can't tell, they're not exactly locals, right? They're doing a little bit of sightseeing from the material plane. I finally managed to convince them to see what it's like on the better side of things, you might say. And I was a little apple mentioned that you and your fleet were going to be visiting Gloriana's garden, or well, Gloriana's palace. And the half-elf over there, I know he may not look it, but he's very much a plant enthusiast. That's part of the reason why we have that sweet little rose bush with us.
Hello! As she waves from the back.
I was hoping that I can fly up there, but look at them. They're wingless. One of them can maybe magically make himself float for a little while, but they can't get all the way up there, darling. So I was hoping that perhaps you would help us do a little bit of sightseeing before these poor dears have to shuffle back off to the mortal plane, because, I mean, how often in their pitiful little lives are they going to have the opportunity to see an Archfey's garden? So I'm going to try to persuade this guy pretty much.
Yes. Yeah, make me a persuasion check.
Oh, that's where's my modifier? That's an 18.
Yay.
10 plus 8.
What?
Well, we will have to rearrange some of our boxes for weight distribution purposes. But I'm sure we can arrange that. Arrange a little deal of some kind to get you up there. Are you planning on meeting with the Queen directly? She will be there on our arrival.
Oh, no. We don't need to bother her ourselves. We'll just hop off before you land. Just over the gardens, yeah, most likely. I think they can handle a little bit of a fall.
Sadly, it would be against regulation to allow anyone to jump out of a plane or one of our little ornithopters without proper training and equipment. So we will be taking you to the landing strip. I cannot budge on that. It is a safety concern.
You don't have any room to budge just so they can I don't know if the Queen Gloriana is going to appreciate a few mortals taking a glance at her garden. I don't want them to get in trouble. I mean, look at them. They're so cute and they don't know anything. And why should we have to bother the Queen?
He's going to, if you
How
make
big?
me a deception check, I'm going to make an insight check.
How big is this ornithopter?
I mean, it's probably about the size of like one of those old like Orville and I almost said Orville and Peck. The Wright brothers like biplanes. It's probably around that size, but gnomes are driving it, so there's a lot more room in there. What did you roll?
I got a 23. Yeah.
Okay.
I get plus 8 to deception checks too.
Yeah, he doesn't suspect a thing. He's like, well, if you want to go to the garden, I'm sure you would want to meet the Queen as well. Perhaps we can put you on an ornithopter near the back.
Yeah, an ornithopter near the back, and this way you can get all of your business done and drop off your wish stones and do the formal things, and I'll just show them around. And then after, we can go try to see a queen about something. Does that sound good to you, darling?
Yes. So, of course, being a representative of the Gnome King, who is quite the businessman, what can you offer us in return for your flight up to Gloriana's palace?
Well, I just so happen to have recently come into a little bit of a windfall. Are you familiar with the Great Pumpkin?
Yes. We've landed here several times. The pumpkin heads are very fond of it.
Now, the poor dear, apparently someone went and hacked it up, which is unfortunate. They're going to try to find who did it and regrow it. Yes, you may want to inform the Gnome King of that as well. But the dear, dear, sweet pumpkinhead druids, they gave me some of the seeds for helping them in their little investigation. And I mean, the seeds of a great pumpkin, darling. So much potential magic there, am I right?
Yes, I'm sure it would be. How many of them do you have?
Well, I only managed to get my hands on about 7.
We will take 2 of them and we will fly you up to the castle.
And drop us off at the garden so we don't have to bother the queen while you're doing your business, correct?
No, we will be dropping you off on the runway, but on the back of the runway.
Oh, well, yes. Do you suppose? Yeah, well. I suppose that will have to do. We'll go towards. So if we're towards the back of the runway, you can do your official stuff, and I can go show them real quick, and then bring them back out later. It
Yes.
should work out fine. Thank you so much, darling. Lark's just gonna pull out these 2, which to him are probably huge pumpkin seeds, like one in each hand, and be like, "We've a deal then."
Yes, we have a deal.
Perfection. I'm going to pass 2 of them over.
Yes, he takes the 2 pumpkin seeds and he gets the attention of one of the other gnomes, and they are speaking in Gnomish. I don't think anyone speaks Gnomish. But he speaks in Gnomish and hands the 2 seeds over and starts yelling in Gnomish, making hand gestures, and they start unloading various boxes and moving them around. As some of the gnomes kind of look over in your direction and kind of eye you up and begin to like point and take various notes as they begin to pull boxes to various planes. And about 20 minutes later, the main gnome comes up and says, well, we have rearranged our boxes, and we should have a ornithopter that is prepared to take your combined weight. You'll be flying with Bartleby over there. He will be at the back. So, all right. Well, I will inform you that the gnomes are getting their ornithopters fired up, and we will be taking off in 5 minutes. So I would recommend getting on the ornithopter immediately. And then he yells something in Gnomish, makes another hand signal, and walks off.
Thank you. Lark will say thanks and wave bye. And just like breathe out a huge sigh. Oh. Well, I've secured us passage, at least, everyone. That would cost me 2 seeds. Shame.
Right. Okay, that seemed like it went well.
That worked out.
You stand a word of it, but good
So,
job.
Oh, yes. None of you speak Sylvan. The gnomes are going to give us a spot in the last ornithopter. And the manager, boss boy over there seems to be quite adamant that we land on the landing strip with him. Unfortunate. But we're going to be in the back, so we may be able to sneak our way before Queen Gloriana notices us. Hopefully. Fortunately for me, if I'm in an ornithopter, I don't think I'll set off any sort of alarms because they'll be expecting the ornithopter, and it's not necessarily... We're not sneaking in, per se. We're invited along at this point.
We're not trespassing.
Okay.
If that's what we're worried about.
That's some sort of backwards fairy logic there. So.
Oh, darling, backwards fairy logic will get you very far here.
Great. So Bartleby, right? That guy?
Yeah, you come up to this. It's slightly smaller than the other ornithopters, but it has had every single one of its boxes removed. It's very clear that this ornithopter is made for shipping rather than for passenger transport. So you're sitting essentially in the places where boxes would be stored. So it's not quite the most comfortable, but you all can manage to squeeze in. Rerek probably needs to duck a little bit, and you guys are kind of shoulder to shoulder in this thing. And Bartleby appears to be a very young gnome, probably some kind of apprentice pilot, probably with enough training to fly an ornithopter on his own, but probably not a master.
Like, is Bartleby like young kid or like young adult gnome? Like, is he an
young
adult?
adult.
Okay.
Definitely
like,
young adult.
Lark's gonna be like, oh, can I sit in your lap, darling?
I'm afraid that would be really distracting.
Oh, Bartleby, learn to have a little fun.
I think you need to learn some. Oh shit! I've lost my vocabulary.
The Feywild has that effect on some people.
Borders is what I was gonna say.
Well, just make sure that you hold on tight and don't stick anything outside of the ornithopter. I'm rather new at this, but I can get you to where you need to be.
You're doing wonderful, darling.
Great. So everyone is comfortably inside.
Yeah, we're good.
Wait, does he let Lark climb into the cockpit with him or no?
No.
Bartleby, oh, darling.
I don't want to lose my license.
I have licenses here.
It's an ornithopter permit. You get it when you're 16.
16.
Oh, well, fine.
And he starts pulling levers and yanking cords and that sort of thing. And this thing begins to move. As you've noticed, the other ornithopters have begun moving. And they have a very specific formation that they begin to spiral up into the air. It's probably an unfamiliar feeling to those who cannot fly, having this sudden rush of wind and being on something where the ground is just so far away from you and realizing that there's not very much between you and a fall. And you do begin to fly through the air at not necessarily a relatively great speed, but certainly at speed. And you look out, and the various ornithopters are all flying. Some of them are held aloft by these sort of propeller blades that are spinning. Others are actually flapping. It's a various different mechanics, and the ornithopters seem to vary wildly. But they are moving across the blue sky above the clouds. And that's when you see almost a hole open and then tear itself open as you see a slightly different color blue, a slightly different color cloud, as you clearly have crossed into another kingdom. And there is a huge floating castle. Hundreds of spires, hundreds of walls, various trees and land masses, and there's even waterfalls that the water is falling off of the edge. It is absolutely a stunning work of architecture. And you do actually get to see a lot of it as the ornithopters begin to fly, curving around and begin to fly down towards a very large patch of grass that has been specifically set up with a very similar sort of fabrics and flags and things of that nature. And the ornithopters begin to descend, doing their landing formation as they zip round one another in this sort of inverse cone, and they land, driving around on the field until they're all in their arrangement. And indeed, you are the farthest from the obvious gate that is there. And all the gnomes get out and begin to pull the boxes out. And opening this gigantic door, coming through, are two dryads They appear to be birch tree dryads with white bark and black markings and these yellow leaves that make their hair and their dresses. And they open the doors for this about 9 foot tall woman. She has hair that looks like it's made from sunlight. She is surrounded by golden butterflies, and the golden butterflies seem to make up her dress as well. She has a gorgeous gold crown on her head as she walks out, and the gnome representative walks up to her and bows, and they begin speaking quietly. You can't quite hear it. And she begins to walk towards the formation of ornithopters. And that is where we are going to end this week's episode. So join us next week to see how they manage to make their way around this magical palace that they've ended up in. And I will see the rest of you in about 5 minutes.